Hello and welcome to the first episode of Garage Talk, Bennetts Back Chat, Talk Face, or whatever you might like to call it. Please, we welcome your inspiration because we're all out already in episode 1. We're aiming to enthrall and enchant and educate and maybe even entertain with a weekly look at what's going on in the world of motorcycling. So I'm Michael Mann, web editor for Bennetts BikeSocial, and I'm hosting today. With me, we've got, well, I best be on my best behaviour because we've got the boss man in. Steve Rose. Steve, welcome.
Morning.
With Steve, we've got our consumer editor, John Milbank. John, hello.
Hiya.
And Bennett's brand and PR man, Luke Brackenbury. Looking good in your sofa, Luke.
Thank you, mate. It's a single chair, but thank you.
He's just very small.
I am.
Let's start with perhaps age order with the most senior. Let's talk about your motorcycling background and what we can see in the garage.
Well, background, too long to speak about. Been riding since 1984, something like that. And yeah, all sorts of bikes. Also, I'm one of those people that the best bike in the world is the last bike I rode. I love motorcycling as much as I love motorcycles. So you put me on pretty much anything and I'll have a great time. I own 2 bikes of my own, neither of which are in my garage at the moment. My TDR 250 is in a workshop in Lincolnshire, bizarrely, and my Phase 1000 is social distancing in the BikeSocial shed in Peterborough. So the 2 bikes that are in my garage at the moment are this one, which is a 2020 model Africa Twin that I've got on a long-term loan from Honda this summer, and this one, which is called a NIU GT. It's an electric scooter that I had delivered literally the day before lockdown, and have done 20 miles on so far, just doing an errand for a neighbour before we got locked down. And unfortunately, that's the situation we're in, isn't it? The day after we first spoke about only being able to do essential travel, I was in Peterborough with that, and I came home to my house, rode home, filled it with petrol just in case, did 20 miles on that, and then we've had the news we can't ride. And I think it's a really odd situation, isn't it, at the moment? I think as motorcyclists, part of us, we like to think we can bend the rules a bit sometimes. We like to think we can do what we like, but the reality is this is one of those times when we just have to do what we're told.
Sure.
I don't know about you guys, but I found, when the announcement happened, I instantly started thinking, oh, maybe I can do this, or maybe I can do that, or maybe I can go out for a ride if I do this. But the reality is we can't. We've just got to be smart with this. We just have to say, for the next few weeks, however long that is, we can't ride, and we can do stuff in the shed. We can do stuff, with our bikes. I can think about my Phaser stuck in its shed in Peterborough and my TDR stuck in a workshop in Lincolnshire. But at the moment, I can't ride. Sorry, I'm rambling already.
Like that for some weeks to come, I think. Let's just move on before we start diving into the news and the viruses and everything else. John, you've got something rather shiny just in front of your nether regions.
Yes, so this is a Royal Enfield Interceptor. This is my long-term test bike, and probably about 2 weeks ago, I would have been putting out a video saying the first 500 or 1,000 miles on it, but it's not done any of that. I've done about 100 miles on it. Really enjoyed it. So I've been riding since 1996. BikeSocial Steve Lamb, actually, and I took my bike test at the same time as him. We've kind of grown up with biking together, came to it quite late. I own 3 bikes. I've owned a 20. I've now got 3, an S1000 XR, the ZX6R you can see reflected there, and my little Africa Grom. But yeah, this is a long-term test bike, and it is, I chose this, we're massively lucky that we can choose a bike that we're going to borrow. And I chose this because I wanted something very different to anything else I had. And I'd love putting around with it. I really miss it. But what I'm going to do instead is just take it to bits. So I'll make a video soon where I'll take it to pieces. As for biking, I'm like Steve. I love every bike except one. But that's probably for another video if you're going to leave that out of me.
Yeah, we'll look at least favourite bikes perhaps one day. I really want to see your Africa Grom in all its glory and detail.
I'll bring that out next time.
That'll be in for another episode. Super Luke, you're sitting there. What you got?
A garage full of rubbish. No, I've been riding since been riding since I was 14. I'm 39 now on field bikes, really, really dangerously. Took my CVT in 1997, got a Kawasaki AR50. Riding bikes since then. Lucky to do that professionally for 7 years, and then I've been in the world of PR. But in my garage, I've got a few things. Next to me is a really sorry Suzuki Bergman 400, which is cost me 280 quid. It's been parked under a tree for 4 years. I've got that. I'm going to do the longest day challenge on that, which has been delayed, but riding from Land's End to John O'Groats in just under 25 hours on a bike that costs less than £300. So I've actually got 2 Bergmans. I bought this one as spares from 250, but now I'm going to press that into life, hopefully, if it will run again, to do that stupid challenge. Otherwise, I've got a 2002 Honda Fireblade 954, the last Fireblade with a capital B. I bought that last year, blind, because I needed something that was fast and comfortable. And when I rode that bike when it came out 18 years ago, I remember it looked great and it was fast and it was comfortable, but in 18 years' time, I've got 18 years older. So got on it, I was like, oh, that's not too comfortable. So I've kind of bastardized that and put some top yoke conversion, so it's got rentals on, so I get a lot of stick for that. But otherwise, Gas TXT 300 trials bike, TTR 125 set up for flat track. I've also got a Bergman 250 and a 1981 CB250 RS street tracker project that I've had for like 9 years now. So a few bikes, none of them good, but I think if you can have lots of okay bikes rather than one really nice bike in different disciplines, then it works.
There's a little Peugeot Kisby somewhere, isn't there?
What'd you say, Milbank?
I was going to say, you described that as a sorry Bergman, but the Bergman shouldn't be sorry. You should.
Yeah.
Well, it depends which one. I mean, this one's the 400's actually when it does ride. It did ride for a little bit, but there's some pretty.
Is that the one that was on your ramp when I came over there about a year and a half ago?
No, that was the 250. So the 250 I bought because when I used to work for a motorcycle manufacturer, I was traveling from airports a lot, so it was always best to take the maxi scooter. So when you've got something that's so shit, it's actually good. And that was this Bergman 250, which I think that one cost me 360 quid, and I had to do a lot of work to it. But it was one of those things. You leave it outside. I was flying from Stansted Loads, and you park it outside. It'd get you there, and you're like, that's nothing to pay on the park, and it got me there. And it's so I like it. I like it because it's rubbish, and that's what I ride to Bennetts most days. I don't feel good about it. I don't look back and go, oh, look at that. But then having spent some time on that new Suzuki Bergman 400 that we've got in the office, not a lot's actually come on in the maxi scooter world in that time, really. It's just like, they have a purpose. But, so yeah, so I've got 2 of the damn things. So it's a different one on the bench this time, John. It needs, the generator's not generating. The valve clearance is away out of town. I know you like doing that sort of thing. So
oh yeah, I love it. It's cosmic.
Yeah, even better on this easy to get to bike. Even think like when it last broke down, when I was trying to ride it to Donington Park, and then the generator failed. When I got it out of the van once it was covered, I smashed the screen straight off. So yeah, so it's, I don't know. I'm fortunate to have a nice big garage, but I'm unfortunate because I fill it full of rubbish.
Moving on.
What are you saying, man? Anyway, Peugeot Kisby, that's right. Actually, also here, probably shouldn't admit that, is our Bennetts Peugeot Kisby, which does need a name, which was, it's a long story, but when we've got this scooter that we took to, obviously, British Superbikes last year, and it was at MotoGP, and that's been here all winter, so that needs a new battery, but kicked that into life the other day. That needs a name, though. That needs a name. I think we should put it on the social media. Scooter needs a name.
Do bikes have to have a name? Do all your bikes have names?
Yes.
Yeah. My bikes don't have names. My bikes have
names.
Do your bikes have names, John?
No, I spend more time working on them.
It doesn't take long to name them.
Well, it seems to it's taking you longer than it is to fix them.
Yeah. I never used to keep mine long enough to give them a name or even think about giving them a name, but I seem to have changed recently. I now seem to keep all my bikes forever.
John, I am impressed that you've done 100 miles pushing that Enfield in and out your garage.
Harsh. You'll get yours. Moving on.
We're all in lockdown, rather obviously. Steve, you've alluded to it already, but it's the current state of play is that we can't really ride anywhere unless it's absolutely essential, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, those people who are essential workers can still ride if they're commuting, and I think, you know, if that were me, I would still be riding, because I think, you know, if that's the only way you can get your riding fixed to commute to work, if you're an essential worker, then great. And I guess the roads are probably quieter than they are, but I think it really is, you know, it's tempting this time of year to say it's a challenge, isn't it, that we can't ride? But actually, it's not a challenge, because the greater good is that we all know what we need to do, and it won't be that long before we can ride. And at the point we can, we'll just get out and we'll enjoy it all the more. It is frustrating. I think it's not as frustrating as not having your bikes anywhere near you. Having your bikes in Peterborough and Lincolnshire is even more frustrating. But we just have to do it. I mean, I can't think of another way of saying it, really. Yeah, I don't know. I presume you guys agree.
Yeah. Though if everybody takes it seriously, you know, I've heard of people who are inviting their mates to barbecues. It sounds like British Superbikes is happening round here at the moment. I can't help thinking that if everybody had understood the idea of social distancing, we maybe wouldn't have had quite as strict a lockdown quite as quickly. But yeah, the quicker everybody takes it seriously, the quicker we'll be through it. And I'm just looking forward to what's going to be an epic ride when this is all over.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the real entertaining. The day the shutters go up and we're all allowed to ride again, it feels like it's going to be like a national version of the start of a 24-hour endurance race.
Yeah, you'll see people in their riding kit just running out, someone holding their bikes. I think
like a Le Mans start, won't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I might have to start creating the trials bike section in my garden, but it is frustrating. But obviously, as John said, it's for the good, and the sooner that we're all adhering to the social distancing and only going out there when it's essential, then the sooner we can get out on our bikes. And I think it's going to be, you know, I work in a lot of events, and we obviously sponsor British Superbikes, the Ironman TT, and we're going to get involved with a lot of other indoor and outdoor events. And obviously they're either cancelled or postponed. But I think what we'll end up is with an amazing summer with so much going on, and we'll, you know, hopefully this weather stays and we'll get out on the bikes. I think everyone will absolutely maximise their free time to enjoy these things and not making excuses. So I'm kind of excited for when we're out of the lockdown
and for me,
rides that people are going to have, getting back out.
Yeah, I'm you know, it makes me more glad that I've ridden all the way through winter, because you know, at least I've not had that. It must be even worse for those guys who put their bike away at the end of last summer and haven't ridden since then. It must be even more frustrating. There's a lot of times when I've been sat on the M25 this winter thinking, you know, should I be doing this? And now I'm quite glad I have. At least I've had those miles. At least I'm not missing out as much as some other people. Because the other thing that's happened with all of this, again, you alluded there with the BSBs, there's a whole lot of sport that's been either postponed or cancelled, isn't there? And that's, I don't know whether you just want to give us a real quick update as to where we are at the moment.
So with BSB, it was inevitable. It took a while to get the official confirmation that it was going to be postponed. The media day at Silverstone was postponed, which would have taken place 1st of April. Then the first round at Silverstone was postponed, and then the next couple up too. So the ACU have pretty much said no track activity in the UK, certainly racing-wise, until the end of May. Which therefore takes not only the first but also the second and third rounds at Alton and Donington Park for the BSB calendar. So they'll be pushing those back. They'll still take place in theory. So at the moment, the plan is that they'll take place later on in the season. So there's plenty of time here and there. You know, the guys are working extra hard just to make sure that everyone's happy and everyone's going to get their, or you'd be able to use those tickets if all those customers have bought tickets already to BSB. And the same thing is going for, well, TT's been cancelled. We don't know about the Classic Teeth and Manx Grand Prix at the end of August just yet.
They're preparing like it's full on.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
It's months away, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. Northwest was postponed, and the Ulster Grand Prix was cancelled. MotoGP, as we know, Moto2, Moto3 took place in Qatar. MotoGP didn't. And the schedule keeps getting bumped around. I think Jerez was cancelled very recently. So in theory, the the first round is going to take place in France around the middle of May. But again, at the moment, I don't see that happening. And the same for World Superbikes. Again, I think at the moment it stands that it's again around the middle of May that their trip to Imola, in theory, is the next round on that schedule. But can't see it happening at the moment. It's a shame, but there's plenty of other things going on. There's lots of riders to keep us entertained on Twitter. There's loads of guys and girls doing. In fact, I think MotoGP, they're doing a computer game tournament with a lot of the top guys. We're recording this perhaps just before the first one takes place, but that'll be quite good fun to see what they're all like on the computer games. And we've got some activity, I think, lined up, haven't we, Luke?
Yes, we have. Yeah, we're trying to make the best use of this time as well. It's like I say, it's frustrating for everyone who wants to get out and ride on races that we can't go and watch. A lot of races that can't go and race. So we're using, speaking to some of our friends to offer some pretty cool content coming up in the next few weeks. So we're going to kick that off with John McGuinness. So Bennett's Rewards customers going to be able to pitch their questions to him. He's going to video those and answer those, and we'll put that out next week. And we've got a lot of other things lined up as well. So just team here are great, coming up with some great ideas. So we should be putting out some video content and articles to read that help us kind of entertain us and educate us maybe and get us through the lockdown. So those will start playing out. We started it this week with the Peter Hickman video. He gave us a tour around his garage, which was pretty insightful, about 15-minute video. It's worth watching, and see some of his histories with some of the things they're working on. So we aim to sort of provide a lot more of that sort of activity, and just so we don't go so crazy looking at bikes that aren't turning a wheel.
Yeah, and a bit more of this. This is, this is the first one of these. We're still getting a hang of it. There'll be the idea is, we want to spend a bit of time using things like this to be able to talk with our Bennett's customers and other motorcyclists. And if you've got stuff you want to know, if you're looking at what bike you're going to buy next, if you're thinking about when all this is over, send us a question, send us a comment, ask us something. We've got, between us, we've probably got, 70 years worth of bike buying experience, probably more than that. 70 more years of riding experience between us. We're lucky enough. Most of us have done this for a living for quite a long while. We've ridden a lot of bikes. We've seen a lot of stuff. Hopefully, we can help you guys with a bit of help and advice. And we're also looking at whether we can bring in some riding experts and some mechanics and some dealers and people like that. Just to make this a bit more varied, a bit more interesting.
John, you wrote a really lovely article this week about MOTs. I don't know if you can remember the details off the top of your head, but there was a bit of ambiguity about whether you need to go to get your MOT. You don't have to. Can you remember what?
That's right. Yeah. So up to and including the 29th of March, if your MOT is booked until then, as long as your MOT station's still open, get your MOT done. That MOT will last 12 months. From the 30th of March onwards, for that period of 12 months, any MOTs that are due to fall then, assuming you have a current MOT, are extended by 6 months. So let's say your MOT is due on April 29th. It will be pushed back 6 months. It will gain 6 months on it. All you need to do is go on the DVLA MOT checker, just Google DVLA MOT checker, and check when the MOT is due based on your registration. The confusions come with people saying, well, my bike's SORN, do I get an extra 6 months or is it covered? It's like, no, unfortunately, if you don't have a valid MOT, as always, you can't ride until you have a valid MOT.
Yeah, but presumably, if when the lockdown finishes, if your bike is SORN, you can just go out on day one of the...
And actually, if you need your bike for essential purposes now as well, then if you can find an MOT station that's running, then you can do it. Certainly Nick Nomikos, he runs a two-wheel centre. He's like our technical advisor for all the... I'm still working on a lot of workshop articles at the moment. So you said about valve clearances. I'd never done it, and I had to make myself do it on that ZX6, and it's doable. And companies like WeMotor, they're still shipping stuff out. Everybody's working on they might not be as quick as they normally are, but most of these places are still working, and certainly the government wants essential companies for vehicle maintenance to stay open. It really is the best time to start working on your bike. Have a crack at it. You know, buy a Haynes manual through Rewards, you get 40% off through Bennetts Rewards. Start working on your bike. Take it apart. It's the best way to learn about a bike, but don't blame me if you can't put it back together. But yeah, so sorry, Nick Nomikas, I asked him, and he runs an MOT station as well in Harpenden. They're still running, but they're only running it for key and essential workers. So if you're working in the NHS or anything like that, if you need your vehicle, if you need your bike, then there's a lot of stations that are still running that you can get in there.
Yeah, I was talking to an MOT guy up north as well the other day who's saying the same thing. They're still open, still running, still doing servicing, repairs and MOTs, but you know, they're trying to do it for key workers because they don't want to be encouraging people to ride their bikes otherwise.
No, and they've got to think about their own health as well, haven't they?
Yeah.
You know, it's all potential forms of transmission, and all of it is about keeping the load off the NHS, isn't it? It's quite a simple message.
Just in regards to key workers, we've also made changes to our policy for people that are still riding, that have to ride because they are key workers, that maybe that their insurance cover wouldn't have covered them for obviously volunteering or delivering supplies or getting to work. We've changed our policy to cover those now without them needing to notify us. So it's a small thing that we can do for the people that are making such a big difference, but we've made those changes to our policies.
We're trying to get that message out, aren't we? Because it affects a certain group of people. But the main thing is, like every company, our call centres all had to go into they're having to work on a very reduced team. So calls are answered a lot more slowly. So we're trying to get the messages out there to say to people, look, for pretty well every insurance policy, I think that's right, Luke, that blood biking you would need to tell your insurer. We're just trying to let everybody know you don't need to tell us, we're covering it as standard. Please don't call us to let us know, just because we're trying to keep everything flowing.
And it just clears up the confusion, doesn't it? There's somebody I know is just, this massive volunteer program that the government's called for. Somebody I know is volunteer for that, and they weren't sure. They want to volunteer, they want to use their bike to transport stuff, but they weren't sure. And it's like I say, trying to get through to an insurance call centre at the moment isn't that easy because they're all running reduced hours, I guess.
What was the last bike you rode before the lockdown, and give me your highlights?
It was the Interceptor. And I went out for it. It was on the. It was. I think it was 2 days before the lockdown, and it's got that complete. So just before that, I'd been out. A couple of days before, I'd been out on ZX6, and I was shooting stuff for the Insta 360 review, and like knee down and stuff, and really loving it. It's so exciting bike, and I find all bikes enjoyable and exciting in their own ways. But I love the way I just enjoyed potting around with it. But it's not. Well, you were at the launch, but it's not slow or anything. It's not like you have to plan overtakes or anything. It'll cruise quite happily at 80 to 90, obviously on autobahns. I love. It's the kind of bike that when I first started riding it, I was like, yeah. And then I pulled up somewhere to take some pictures. Like, this is lovely. It's a bike that makes you want to pull over and enjoy. Look, that sounds like I don't like it, doesn't it? But it's a bike that you enjoy just being with. And I can't wait until riding again, the cafes are open again. I just love riding around on it. So yeah, it's good. It's the only thing I found, obviously I can't get anywhere near enough to do a proper first impressions of it, but it seems to be warning me that the tank's empty after 100 miles, but then it appears to have about a gallon left, so I need to look a bit more into that. But other than that,
long-termer for this year, why did you end up choosing the Royal Enfield?
Simply because I wanted something very different to my S1000 XR, the Grom, and the ZX6. I've still actually got the Versys 1000. I can't get it back to Kawasaki. I'm going to do the final conclusion about that. That was what I was running all last year, right through the winter and everything. But it's quite similar to the S1000. In fact, I bought the S1000 XR after comparing it to the Versys 1000. If I could only have one bike and it had to do everything I need to do, I honestly would buy I've just blown it, haven't I? I've blown that video. I would buy the Versys 1000. But because I'm in that lucky position of having access to a lot of bikes, and I own 3 bikes, the S1000 XR I bought because it's not the right bike for me for everyday commuting, but it is the right bike for me when I want a treat and I go out and it's just mental.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, damn it.
Steve Rose, what was the last bike you rode?
On the day before lockdown, I rode pretty much every bike I've got, apart from TDR. Not because I knew lockdown was coming, it's just, but my phasing was coming back from the MOT station. It had just been serviced and MOT, funnily enough. So I sort of came a long way back on that and reminded myself of how much I love that. And then I rode back from Peterborough to where I live, just outside Brighton, on the Africa Twin. And the Africa Twin, I've done pretty much 3,000 miles on it in about 4 weeks. I do a lot of miles, you know, I live a long way from the office, so I do a lot of miles anyway. But I've started, as the weather's got better, I've already started taking a long way back on it. It's one of those bikes, it is a big adventure bike, and it's got all the advantages and disadvantages of a big adventure bike. But it's a real, Honda do things differently, and you know, and it's incredibly comfortable for a bike that's got a very tall, apparently very narrow seat. It's very comfortable over distance. It's just a really easy bike to ride. Mine's a manual version rather than DCT version, and it's just it does the kind of motorway thing really, really well. But it's got the electronic suspension on this one, and it also does the back road stuff. It just and the electronic suspension is it's that kind of stuff where you just don't notice it. It's doing what it's doing in the background, and so here's a bike that's got either very long travel, very soft suspension when you need it, or very well damped controlled suspension when you're really pushing on. And because I do so many miles, I've become obsessed with things like fuel consumption, because otherwise I'd be spending an absolute fortune on fuel. It can either do 50 to the gallon when you're enjoying it, which is great actually for a big bike like that, but it can also do 60, 65 to the gallon when you're trying to eke 300 miles out of a tank full, and trying to do I do 150 miles each way to work. So if I can get there and back on one tank, that's great. And I can just about do that if I ride sensibly.
Is that because you're really bad at navigating?
Yeah. Yeah, I only live 10 miles from the office. Yeah, so, and then this thing, which is worth talking about, I haven't...
That's what I want to hear about, Steve. I don't want to hear about the Africa Twin. I know it's a good ride.
I want to reserve judgment because I've only done 20 miles on it, but in a way, 20 miles is interesting because
you can ride that one in your house as well.
Yeah, it's true. And you know, the big thing whenever we talk about electric bikes, right just before everybody falls asleep, the big thing everyone talks about is this sort of range anxiety thing. You know, the common thing is I'm not interested until it'll do blah 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 this many miles and take this long to charge. And I get all that. If this was electric, I absolutely get that. If my kind of number one bike that I want to go hundreds of miles on was electric, that'd be fine. But this is completely different. This is something that, you know, this is just a commuting thing. And most of us, when we commute, don't commute more than sort of 10 miles in each direction. And so if you've got something that'll do 50 miles to a charge, then I see it as like a phone. I go out, I do 10 miles in it or 20 miles, I come back, I charge it up. I don't have to go to a petrol station. I don't have all that thing about will you take your helmet off. You know, I can refuel it at home, which in the current thing will be great because, you know, you don't have to come into contact with anybody. And so it's that different mindset. This isn't a motorcycle like we use motorcycles. This is a way of getting from one place to another in a very cheap, very efficient way. And I think it works out something like about a fifth the cost of running even a petrol scooter.
And I'm really interested in the new GT. As you know, Steve, I've had a good look at one on someone's driveway, and my commute's 8 miles each day.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like it justifies getting all fully togged up and getting the blade out and warming that up. That's why I rode the Bergman and I warmed the thing up. But the GT, you know, like you said, with the range it's got, and the build quality looks really good, and it's a bit novel. So I'm really interested in how you get on with that, and hopefully I'll get a go on it as well, because I'm looking for something. The Bergman's going to die at some stage, but I'm looking for something to replace that. And I think that's the kind of electric bike that I could come into. I'm interested in electric bike. I had a KTM ESM, the Supermoto, free ride for a little while, which was great fun. But something like that, from the little commute that I've got, you know, I'm interested to see how you get on in Brighton.
It's really well put together, and the thing I really like about it is rather than having one big battery pack, like most electric bikes, it's got two separate batteries. So it's got two smaller batteries, each about the size of a car battery, and they're removable.
Get one out while Michael tells us about the last bike he rode. I want to see it.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll have to go and get my key, because my key's in the house, obviously.
Well, then you go and do that. Luke, you've got to talk about which was the last bike you rode, then I'll do mine.
technically, it was the Honda SP1 that we're going to give away this year. I only rode it for less than a mile with a piss pot on and no gloves because I was looking for Dom the videographer's keys because we couldn't find them. So I took that, and then the fuel light was on because it has a fuel range of like 20 miles anyway. So it doesn't really count, but it did feel good. I'll have a proper ride on that. But my 954 Blade had its MOT, last Wednesday. I was like, right, I need to get this sorted out, and I did a lot of sort of changes to that over the winter. Sort of new chain and sprockets, drop the gearing on the front, one tooth down, because it seems to have like a ridiculously tall first gear, and you have to go quite fast. I don't want to go fast. I'd just like it to have a lot more thrust. So it was nice to kind of get out on that.
Whoa! Sorry, did Luke Brackenbury just say I don't like to go fast?
I thought I heard him say that.
I'm a responsible father of two, dog owner. No, I don't like going fast on the road anymore. But the thing with the Blade, it was so tall geared, which was nice when I did my trip to the Alps last year. But I just wanted it to be a bit more peppy, and that's the kind of best way to do it is to drop one tooth off the front. So it's had some new Pirelli tyres, it's had some new wheel bearings, it's had a load of strip the shop linkage. So I had a nice ride on that last Thursday night, and then I went out again Friday morning on that. And it's a near 20-year-old sports bike. It's not, it could do with some suspension work, I think, and I'd like to change the master cylinder, but it's mine. It doesn't cost me a lot of money. I own it, and it's still fast. It still looks all right, despite the fact I've mullered it with putting a top yoke and some Renthals on it. But yeah, I want to ride it. West coast of Scotland, that's on the to-do list this year, once we can get going.
That was the last bike I rode. Ducati's Street Fighter V4S, and I just got it snuck in right on the cusp of lockdown day. It was,
is that first pass, Michael?
Say again, mate.
That first pass, cold tyres.
That one. That's a private road, professional rider.
Cold tyres.
Cold tyres. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was just testing the acceleration. They went, whoa. We were supposed to have the press launch of the bike over in Ascari last weekend, and of course that was cancelled. So a couple of weeks back, but Ducati UK said, "Listen, we've got one, if not probably two bikes. So those who are invited to the launch can each have the bike for a day, go out, enjoy it, write your review." And the embargo was last Wednesday night. So we managed to shoot the video, do some pictures, and ride about 100 miles in a day. And the thing is sensational. It's like an excitable little puppy. It's something you want to. I can't wait to get on it again. Thankfully, it's going to be my long term of this year. Whenever I'm able to get out and ride it again. But from the minute you turn it on, it's just that V4 sound. I'm such a glutton for a V4. And I love the Aprilia Tuono, and I really was, and I enjoyed the 1290 Super Duke, and I rode the ZH2 there, and so all those kind of super mega crazy nakeds as they are nowadays. I mean, that Kawasaki's 197 horsepower. They claim that the Ducati's 205 brake horsepower.
Only 205.
Yeah, there's 208 horsepower, 205 brake horsepower.
How are you going to get up hills with that?
You can't, because the winds are pushing it down.
Yeah.
Toilet roll overs.
Did you see the video? So I took a toilet roll, because of course that's the kind of the common thing at the moment, isn't it, to talk about toilet rolls? So I put it fit perfectly between the two wings. So on the V4, the Panigale V4 range for 2020, they've only got one wide wing for sporty stuff and to keep your front end down and to keep it under stability and the braking and the corners and whatever else. But because the Street Fighter is a street bike, they've got two wings, like a biplane, but they're slightly narrower.
Essential road speeds, presumably.
Yeah. What they said in the press presentation is it creates 28 kilograms of downforce at 165 miles an hour.
Oh.
Well, they could have just said anything.
How much downforce can get 30 miles per hour?
Don't know, 30 grams.
Yeah. I said about Bogwell, my uncle he's in lockdown in Italy. And apparently it's not a problem for them, so they've got B-days. Situation.
Not birthdays, those things that wash your bum.
Yeah.
Right.
For those who are watching, this is the battery from the new GT. There's two of these. There's one under the seat, and you can see on there's a little plug in the top, and literally there's one cable that plugs into there. So you lift it off, take the battery out, and that's it. There's another one under the.
Looks like an old games console.
It's what?
Looks like an old games console, like an Atari.
It's an S.
Yes, Steve's got his entertainment out, not battery.
It's fairly heavy. If you lived on the 10th floor of a tower block, you wouldn't want, carrying both of them up there. Will, it's a bit of a challenge. But
Presumably it's lithium.
yeah.
What happens if you stick a paper clip in those holes? Try it.
I'll try that off camera, because we're obviously, as a responsible company, we'd need to do a risk assessment before we did that. So yeah, there's one under the seat. There's another one under your feet. The downside of that is it does mean there's less distance for your feet than a normal scooter. So for someone like me who's got kind of normal 32-inch inside leg, it's a little bit cramped when you're riding it. It's not uncomfortable, and it's a commuter bike, so you're not going to do loads of miles, but it's just a little bit more cramped than a standard scooter. And obviously this one sits under the seat where a lot of the storage would normally be on a scooter, so you don't get any storage like you do on a normal scooter. But it's but at the same time, you're traveling around for pennies. You can charge it up at home. It seems to take, I haven't run it down to be completely empty yet. It seems to take between 4 and 6 hours for a full charge. It takes
what you can do is you can leave it running and put it on some blocks, and then sort of take the throttle on in your garage, and it's not going to be a problem to see how long it runs for.
Yeah.
That'll be safe.
Yeah.
I think on the news you can't put the throttle on and the brake, because I had a little go. They've got a sort of 50cc equivalent, and at an event last year someone had one. I was like, let me have a go, and I was riding it on the grass, and you couldn't do burnouts on it because
that came on the SLs and XR, the new one. If you're braking hard with the front brake, it cuts the throttle to stop that. Sometimes more so with newer riders, you probably wouldn't be on SLs and XR, but when you still got the throttle on and you try to pull the brake on, it's a panic situation. You forget to let the throttle go, cuts the throttle when you brake. Eh?
I never do that. I shut the throttle.
It's a thing. That electric bike I bought off you for Georgie, that you couldn't brake and accelerate at the same time, but I disconnected that so she could do burnouts. What's it cost?
It's just over £3,000 with I think it's the list price is actually £4,000, but there's a government grant that applies to all electric vehicles, applies to this. So I think you get it's something like 20% discount.
No.
But so it works out, I think, about £3,100, which again for me is one of the things, because my normal barrier with electric bikes is I just at the point where I start thinking maybe this is the moment, maybe that one's good enough. They say £18,000 and I just instantly lose interest, because I normally spend about £1,800 on a bike. So for me, the fact £3,000 is about the same sort of price as a typical 125cc scooter. This one actually does 45 miles an hour. It's got 3 modes. It's got what they call sport mode, where it does 45 miles an hour. It's got a dynamic mode, which is basically moped performance, where it's limited to 27. And then it's got eco save mode, which is a kind of limp home mode. And so far, from what I've seen, I haven't done a full discharge on it. I've only done 20 miles. It seems like if you have it on full sporty mode, it does about 50 miles to a full charge, which to me, as a commuting thing, if I worked 10 miles away from home, that's okay. That'll get me to work and back twice, and then you charge it up. But the reality is, I just charge it up every night. I'm the same with my phone. I charge my phone every night. It takes half an hour. This takes a couple of hours to charge from when you've used 20 miles worth. That's
So Michael, PCX 125.
Sorry, you said discharge.
Oh no, I'm still laughing at discharge. I'm glad you said it. Don't do a full discharge on it, please, Steve.
Ah.
I can't believe I missed that. The PCX 125. Storage space under the seat, cheaper to buy.
It's fantastic. I love it. Yeah. To £2,929, I think it was. So yeah, under £3,000. You get over 100 miles to the gallon, and you can fit, if you really want to, you can fit 363 golf balls under the seat, but not a full face helmet.
No. Well, you can,
Without
can't you?
cramming
You
it
can push
in.
hard and bend the seat.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like electric bikes. I rode that Brembo Impulse R, which is gone now, isn't it, in this country at least? And that was awesome fun. But I really like electric bikes in the right circumstances. I love riding them. They can be really good fun. They've got loads of benefits. But yeah, it's the pricing for me at the moment. I think for local commuting, though, they do make sense. It'd bug me that there's no storage space under that.
Yeah, but for me, the thing with this is, I think £3,000, they've got the price right. It's built really nicely. It's comparable build quality to a decent Japanese 125cc scooter, and I really like the way it's Bosch. It's a Bosch motor and Bosch electrics in it, and it's really convenient. The way the batteries go in and out, and the way you can just charge it. So you can charge it either leave them on the bike and charge it in your garage, or take the batteries into your house and charge them in your house. It just adds another level of convenience.
The indicators beep, don't they, as well?
Yeah, the indicators make they sound like a strange, It's not even
The display's really trick on it. It looks like a proper little tablet, real nice TFT, and the headlight's cool. It's I really want to ride it. But no, it's a good point I make about the PCX 125. It's a lot of bike quality built. Great miles to the gallon as well. You've got storage space. That's a toughie. I mean, we got one of the guys in our office. He's thinking about getting a PCX 125, isn't he? Has he even thought about the Lecky bike, the new?
Yeah, I think he's committed now to the PCX, but of course that was pre-lockdown. In fact, it was the very bike that we had on test for a week. But he's now
that thing. I suppose for long term, if there was standardisation in those batteries, or if they could take over, then obviously you could just swap batteries round at a filling station and.
Yeah. But the thing is, for a commuter thing, I don't think it matters, because you don't get to work and then suddenly realise that you need to go 100 miles, without. And if you did,
true.
You find other ways. If it's just a way of getting to work and back, and you've got your number one bike in the garage that you go out and play with on a weekend or whatever, it makes a lot of sense.
It's full circle, doesn't it? Because we're saying about essential workers, and people are still having to go to work at the moment.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, we're living kind of out of cities and stuff. I think all of us, aren't we? But if I was working in London and I had to still be going into London in this, I would definitely go by scooter or motorcycle. Yeah. Bicycling, you're kind of panting and breathing in all the time, aren't you? At least with the helmet on, you've got your helmet on, you're relaxed, and you're completely isolated. If people haven't got a scooter now, I know we're always, for obvious reasons, we're trying to encourage people to ride more motorcycles and scooters, but surely now, obviously, why would you want to be? Well, I always wonder why anybody would want to be kind of crammed in somewhere when they could be using that kind of freedom of.
Well, the footage we saw earlier this week, of even after the lockdown, of some of the tubes when that was still really busy, and we're in a situation where you really don't know who's infected or who's a carrier or whatever, and you look at those pictures and you think, when this all finishes, surely you think people ought to be looking and going, there must be a better way of getting to work than this. And I know obviously I'm an enthusiast, but for me, the idea of going to work on a bike, it's the best start to a day and the best finish to a day you can have. Never mind the fact that it saves you money, never mind the convenience, never mind the fact that you know that if it's a half-hour journey, you'll be there in half an hour. You're not going to get stuck in traffic. You're not going to get trains cancelled or delayed or whatever. There's a whole load of reasons for doing it, and it just it just seems, surely one thing that might come out of this might be people think, maybe I don't want to commute like that anymore. And I know some people don't have a choice and some people don't have an option. That thing, if you live on the 13th floor of a tower block and you've got nowhere to park your bike or nowhere secure, maybe it's different. But there's a lot of people for whom this will be a life changer.
Do you think one of the barriers to entry is the fact that the licensing situation, how to get a license, is so complicated?
I think if you're talking about big bikes, yes. But again, if you're talking about commuting around a city, CBT, if you get a good CBT and a 125, actually, the 125s for getting in and around a city or a town are fine. And we were having a conversation with the guys at BMW training the other day, and they were saying that their view on CBT is that they do a 2-day CBT, at BMW training, because they feel more confident that people are better equipped to ride after a 2-day CBT. And I think there's a lot in that. You know, I think
I remember doing my CBT at 16, and then that was it. You could ride on the road. I couldn't believe it, even at 16. I was like, wow, it seems like there should be a little bit more to it than that I can now go and ride. Although 30 mile per hour should have been doing.
Presumably you were the best 16-year-old moped rider out there, though, weren't you?
No, shit, John.
You were the best van driver.
Oh no, I stand by that claim. King of the road. I make no claims about motorbike riding. No, I just 2-day CBT. I mean, like you say, Steve, for a lot of commuters, a 125 is all you need, or something with the power like the new GT there. Yeah. But yeah, two days of training.
It's a mindset thing, isn't it? And I think we look at it as experienced riders. We look at kind of 125s in a very different way, and we see, when we talk about commuting or think about commuting, we think about what's a great big bike that we could commute on, or we sort of think of a 500cc bike as being a minimum for commuting. But the reality is, when you're doing it, if you're whizzing around town on a 125cc scooter, it takes a couple of days to get back in the mindset of it, and you get in that thing about, you haven't necessarily got the acceleration, whatever. But actually, you just, you sit with the traffic when you need to, and you get ahead of it when you can, and you use the agility and and you don't miss it. You could ride around town all day on a 125 or all week on a 125, and you really wouldn't care.
Let's just have a quick chat about the elephant in the room, or the small dog in the room. Luke, who's your mate? Well on brand there, I see, as well.
This is Opie, who's he's a massive attention seeker, loves the ladies. So he's just coming from morning clothes. Huh?
Where does he get that from?
I don't know. His mum. Yeah, this is Opie.
Hello.
He's a good boy. He's a good guard dog. Obviously, his bark is worse than his bite. He just licks a lot. Sorry, is he distracting? People like dogs anyway.
Yeah, everyone likes dogs. Apart from those who don't.
I think it's a nice addition.
Those who don't.
Millie's in the house at the moment. She's too old to come out.
Oh,
yes, I'm the only one without a dog. You three have all got four-legged friends.
Yeah, mine are too smart to come in out here, though. It's freezing in here.
Okay, chaps, thank you very much. Before John's battery runs out, we're going to say cheerio. Thanks very much for your thoughts and education and enlightenment and all that stuff. Let's have a little thing. Okay, so next time, let's have a little challenge. You've got £2,000 as your fictitious budget. Go and find a sensible commuter.
go find it. Go on.
Good job. All right, we're going to have some special guests coming up in the next few episodes. It might even be you. So get in touch if this is the kind of thing that you're interested in. If you want to come and be part of it, if you've got a nice looking garage, get in touch with the link. I don't know where the link is it down there or is it up there? Don't know, but get in touch. Hit us with some questions, hit us with an idea of what we should call this thing as well. Good stuff. All right, see you next time. Cheers.
Bye.
Go.
Don't discriminate about people who haven't got nice looking garages.
Sorry? Hold on. What's it what?
I'm still quite cool with calling it Bennetts Back Chat.
Back end chatter.
Picking up the rear.
Talking McTalkface.
Loose rear end.